And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, is a man who knows seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Doing good. Well, I did see the game today in Sarasota. Not many other people did. No TV, no radio, no StatCast. You could sort of follow the play-by-play. It had some pitches on there. I don't think it had all the pitches. So it was kind of like going back in time to watch the Tigers. And it's a little bit unfortunate because guess who's on the mound? Jackson Jobe, probably the main
Jobe.
attraction of spring training. First career spring training start, I believe.
Yes.
He threw the infamous ninth inning last year. That was amazing. Jobe wasn't as good as he was in that ninth inning last year. He wasn't, I didn't think, as sharp as he was in the live bullpen that we all raved about last week. He was okay. The stuff is obviously there. The heater was sitting 98, 99 miles an hour. But a couple instances that popped up, he got, I believe it was Ryan O'Hearn, or was it Tyler O'Neill?
Yeah, keep going. I got you.
He was down, got him down 0-2. And I was like, all right, here we go. Gonna have some curveball action. Threw one that was just kind of non-competitive, missed a spot. I think one fastball high. Next thing you know, it's 3-2. Next thing you know, he walked him. And then, as Jackson Jobe himself said, like, you walk guys tend to score. Throws a fastball to Heston Kjerstad, fellow Randall High School alum, and Heston killed it. Opposite field homer. So 2 runs scored off Jobe in that inning. I think the main thing everyone was excited to see was the curveball. He did get one swing and miss on it. You say he threw 5 or 6, which, again, this without StatCast, it was a little bit different, right? You're like, oh, you have to actually really look to see what's happening. I would have guessed he only threw 2 or 3, and that's because he threw 2 or 3 more that really just were not competitive. I'm not sure they even had the shape he wanted. So, as I did mention last time we talked about Jackson Jobe, going to have to see this pitch consistently be as good as it can be before we really know. One of the big tests was, like, can he get swing and miss in 2 strike counts? And much like Casey Mize the other day, he didn't actually do that when that was maybe the biggest thing for him to check off. So growing pains, this is what spring training is for. I don't think this really alters where he should stand in the rotation competition or anything like that. The stuff is still premium, but he's got room to improve.
So the whole Jobe thing and this today, like, it really did take me back because Cody, you and I, we're like at that perfect age where this is really how we had to follow the game, or wait until the next day and read the newspaper. Remember that? So like this, especially as an out of market fan like myself, like I wasn't able
watch the Braves on TBS every night, baby.
Yeah, or the Cubs on WGN. So if you weren't one of those teams, you were kind of screwed. So it did kind of bring me back. I did like the little graphic in there that said, like, not all stats are available on the MLB game day or whatever. It did kind of make me laugh.
It's also just like, why? It's 2025. Why is a spring training park not equipped with this technology? It's kind of ridiculous.
Yes. Well, there you go. The owners are already planting the seeds for the collective bar. We're so poor. We can't always
have new owners now. They're supposed to be rich. Not only did they not really spend this offseason, their spring training park doesn't even have proper technology. It's kind of embarrassing. Come on, Baltimore. I like your organization, but what are we doing here?
It's an embarrassment for Major League Baseball that you had this heavy laden, these heavy laden lineups for both teams. 2 playoff teams last year, by the way, and your top pitching prospect in baseball, and that it almost might as well not existed in terms of the public eye. So anyway, that goes without saying, but we had to say it anyway too. So the Jobe thing, because I couldn't watch, I couldn't listen, I couldn't hear Dan Dickerson describe every fine little detail as he is prone to do, as he is great at. I kind of had to rely on A, the numbers, and then B, like what people were saying. So him and like AJ after the game, and his stat line is as unremarkable as it is short, right? It's 2 innings. He gave up, his ERA is going to take a hit from that. He gave up the 2 run. He had 1 strikeout. Like, he had the walk, like you said. And yes, that was to O'Neill, by the way. So you kind of look at it and you're like, all right, you're probably not going to get a lot of boasting from the team. But then like AJ seemed glowing's too strong a word, but he seemed like pretty positive. Jobe seemed pretty like resolute to like, you know, what went into that outing, and then, you know, like the stuff that you described and the details of that. So it almost kind of makes you have to, you can't, like, you have to read beyond the box score. You can't look beyond the box score because you didn't watch the game, but you have to read beyond the box score. It seemed to me that people were pretty, like, in the organization were more positive than just if you just looked at the play-by-play might dictate. And that might speak volumes about how this organization is viewing him immediately, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, AJ seemed to like that Jobe knows what he needs to work on. This is a guy who is really young, has minimal major league experience, but knows, you know, exactly, got to 2 strikes, didn't strike the guy out, left a fastball middle. Those are really the 2 blemishes. Overall, probably didn't spot the secondary stuff as good as he would have liked. And Jobe is able to diagnose that and assess it and like know what he needs to do to improve. He admitted maybe he was like almost trying too hard to get Chase in that 0-2 count. So, you know, just kind of talking about that, AJ was like, yeah, I mean, he sets a very high bar for himself. That's a good thing. He, like, we're continuing to understand that Jackson Jobe knows pitching and he's learned a lot about pitching in a very short amount of time. Remember, this guy was not a starting pitcher until like his senior year of high school. So he's come along quickly. He knows what's up. That's the entire point of all this. That is why we have way too many spring training games, is that so young players can make mistakes and learn for them, and older players can ramp themselves up into shape and all that stuff that's not necessarily that fun to talk about. But AJ keeps kind of mentioning that we shouldn't overreact to mistakes. You want to get those mistakes out of the way now.
Mistakes, and actually sometimes it goes beyond that, is that I think one of the things that I've gotten better at, and I hope other people are getting better at it too, is when you watch just from this rebuild alone, if you're of a certain age, this is kind of like all you know, right? And you're watching these young pitchers develop, some more than others, and you hear this term a lot, swing and miss. And I think the natural inclination of that is, oh, the fastball goes fast, the curveball has a deep, deep drop or whatever, like, the slider. It's actually a lot more than that. And I think it bears repeating, because when we talked about Casey Mize, we talked about his, throwing the fastball to low to set up the split, right? That's what swing and miss really is. It's not just the house, what's the drop on the split? You know what I mean? Like, there's a pitchability aspect to swing and miss. It's not just stuff. So I just wanted to say that in case people are trying not to, or having trouble connecting the two things, when in terms of like, well, I hear he has this great curveball, I hear he throws 98. How is he struggling with swing and miss? It's those kinds of things. It's sequence. It's deception. It's like all these kind of things that aren't necessarily like what you create your player at and the road to the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, tunneling. I mean, this is why Jackson Jobe more or less has ditched the sweeper that was 3,000 plus RPM and was amazing, because it came out of his hand and was noticeably slower and noticeably loopier. And a lot of times it was probably a ball-to-ball pitch, meaning it never looked like a strike, or even if it did, hitters knew that was going to move. It didn't look anything like his fastball, so he laid, so they would lay off of it. The curveball, in theory, is going to come out of that same arm slot. It's not going to pop. It's going to look like the fastball until it does that, until it drops. So that is in part pitching. Tarek Skubal throws strike to ball sliders, strike to ball changeups as good as anyone in the league right now. Looks like a strike until the last minute, then that thing moves. Skubal also throws ball to strike sinkers really well. There are ways. That's kind of what it is. And then being able to beat hitters in the strike zone, which is what Jim Leland has famously talked about, and something, again, Skubal does really well that other pitchers don't necessarily replicate. Can you get a fastball by a guy? Can you throw a slider in the strike zone and still get a swing and miss? These are things Jackson Jobe's learning to do. This is why he has continued to tweak his arsenal in search of being able to do those things against higher level hitters.
Yeah, very well put. Sticking with this game, probably the most encouraging and best highlight, and there is video of this. It does exist. I can confirm. I have seen the video. Riley Greene made his debut, spring training debut this season, and he got a hold of one, Cody. He got a hold of one pretty good there. He ends up 2 for 2. He has a walk. He has the 2-run home run, and earlier in the day, I was recapping some of the ESPN Plus is putting out. I believe it's Buster Only. Don't quote me on that. It's putting out like top 10 players at each position. They kind of grouped corner outfielders, and Riley Greene was an honorable mention. The Athletic put together guys under 25, and Riley Greene didn't make the outfield team, but he was the designated hitter. So all that to say that don't you national people don't you forget about Riley Greene now.
Everyone sleeps on Riley Greene, man. I don't understand. This guy had a 135 WRC plus, number 20 among all hitters, qualifying hitters in baseball last year at his age, I think 24 season. Riley Greene's really good. He played elite level defense, got snubbed from even being a Gold Glove finalist. I don't know what it's going to take to put some respect on Riley Greene's name, but if he keeps performing, the accolades will eventually be there. I wrote about Riley Greene on The Athletic. You can check out that story. Yes, it does talk about the Chick-fil-A a little bit, but we're going back in history to a time where Greene admitted he had a bad diet. So even some new context in the Chick-fil-A discussion. The homer, look, he got a fastball middle. He crushed it. That's what Riley Greene is going to do. Talking to AJ Hinch after the game, AJ kind of mentioned like Riley's first at bat. He battled Charlie Morton 7 pitches. He fouled off at least one really tough 2-strike pitch, and then he laced a single to the pull side. And it's probably at bats like that are going to shape the next level for Riley Greene, to get the average 10, 15 points higher, to get the on-base percentage up, to cut down on the strikeouts, to be able to battle in 2-strike counts. And I think that's where Riley has really matured as a hitter. His pitch selection is much better. He seems to know his swing much better. And if he can stay in at bats like that, I think that is what could make him an MVP caliber. I don't want to say MVP because like you got Bobby Witt, you got Aaron Judge, you got Gunnar, but like this guy could easily receive top 5, top 6, top 7 votes in the MVP race next year if he stays healthy and plays to his potential. And maybe eventually the national scene will realize just how good he is at still a very young age.
Yeah, and sticking with Greene for a second, like he's also like if you look at all-star projections, which is obviously meaningless, but like that's a name that's left off, for the Tigers. Everyone's gonna throw Skubal in there, and not gonna tell them they're wrong on that. But like I think Riley Greene deserves to be in that category, like no doubt. Now I know MVP.
A year ago, people didn't realize how good Taylor Skubal was. Now they know.
No, they know. Oh, they know, and. And Riley Greene he's still so young. Like this is like there's still a lot to be had for him. And I guess we can just kind of say this right now because we haven't talked about it because there hasn't been anything to talk about really since winter meetings where it's like nothing really on the table extension wise right now. So like we're not really reporting anything. We're just stating a fact. That
yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything since winter meetings, but last I heard, there had not even been like a cursory discussion between the Tigers and Riley Greene's representatives about any sort of extension. In a way that surprises me because, look, I mean, if Scott Harris signed Colt Keith pre-debut, I just kind of figured out he was reaching out to everyone who was halfway good. Hey, what do you guys think? 5 years, $10 million? That sound good to you? But I think in the case of Riley Greene, as I said before, health is going to be huge to make the Tigers feel comfortable extending him. But now that he's asserted himself as an all-star, Riley Greene is probably going to want a 9-figure deal if he were to sign an extension. He ain't going to come cheap. If Riley Greene can play 150 games this year, not have an IL stint, and be a 4+ win player again, I think it'll be time to really start having those conversations. And he's not a Scott Boras client, so maybe there's a chance. I don't know. But he needs to stay healthy, I think, for the team to feel comfortable committing the years and the dollars.
It's obviously a big thing. just in general, I'm not really going to predict his price will go down with time. So just throwing that out there. All right, little topical news there, Cody. That since we last talked, let's stick with let's go with an old friend. An old friend is back. Andrew Chafin, as the graphic says, you can see it on our YouTube, is back again for his third stint with the Tigers. I had been wondering about Chafin. I had been wondering because it's a classic reliever thing, and it's not the first time he's done this. Where you get signed in while camp has already started. The famous, I'll always remember. It's like, I don't really need to talk to Chris Fetter or anything. Up and in, down and away. Like I just love that so much. He is a second guy to Jack Flaherty of he can actually pitch against guys, or I guess he can't pitch against them, but like he can be a part of guys that are in trades for him with the Tigers. So that's kind of neat there too. So another feather in the Scott Harris cap. It is a minor league deal, technically, right? With an invitation to spring training, obviously. If he gets to the majors, he's due to make $2.5 million. This is all reported. I don't have the sources, so I'm saying it's reported. $1.5 million in incentives. And if he gets traded, which, it's happened before to him, he gets a $250K trade kicker bonus. So he stands to make a decent amount of money, but he has to make the team first, Cody. What's the read here about him coming in at this time? With it being a minor league deal, AJ Hinch saying you got to earn your spot like everybody else. Like, what can you kind of share with us about, bringing Chafin back at this time to that deal?
Yeah. For as much as he wasn't great when he was with the Rangers after the trade last year, I'm surprised he had to settle for a minor league deal. There at various points, I think, were reports that the Mets were interested in him. Maybe Andrew Chafin hates the big city so much he settled for a minor league deal. We know he likes the location and it's close to his family. Still surprised, that he wasn't able to land elsewhere, but one of those things that, again, seems to work out pretty well for the Tigers. They reunite with him, but they don't even have to commit to putting him in the major leagues in what is going to be a crowded bullpen. Scott Harris seems to be leaning in to the idea that you can never have enough pitching. Because now I'm like, man, I mean, Chafin's pretty good. He's pretty proven. He does have the capability to miss more bats than most of your guys in the pen, but is he going to make the team? Are you really going to put him on there over Sean Gunther or Brant Herter? Herter, for what it's worth, hasn't looked great in his first two spring outings. His mechanics look a little off to me. I'm no pitching coach, but it seems like he's just kind of crossfiring a little bit, and the command has not been as precise as you would expect of him. But in theory, the Tigers love Herter and they love Gunther, and I don't think they're going to – and they obviously have Holton, so I don't think they're going to carry 4 lefties in the bullpen. The fact that this is a minor league deal and he's going to come to camp theoretically a little bit behind makes me think they could start him in Toledo, and if one of these other guys underperforms or gets injured, he's the next man up. And then him and my guy Chase Lee are going to have to battle for a campsite maybe in this little campground they have between Detroit and Toledo, where maybe it's big enough they can live together in harmony, Chase Lee and Andrew Chafin. That seems like a weird camper sitcom waiting to happen.
Well, nobody's happier than Jason Foley, I'm sure, to have his boy back. So, the bros are reunited. It should be noted, like, Chafin is not just a lefty specialist. I think it just bears repeating. Like he had reverse splits last year. For his career, lefties hit 231 off him, and righties hit 229. So it's not just like bring him in for the lefty laps. I just wanted to put that out there. So it is worth noting. All right, another thing worth noting, Cody. A situation that I guess is going to be okay, but at the same time, I don't necessarily know if I feel great about it at this moment right now, and that is Parker Meadows, friend of the podcast, by the way. Friend of the podcast, Parker Meadows. One of the things that you talk about Riley staying healthy, you really, really, really want Parker Meadows to stay healthy too, for like obvious reasons, but not the least of which you just want to see what he can do over the course of a season in the major leagues. And he has what is officially being deemed right arm inflammation. Am I correct on that?
Right upper arm
Right
inflammation.
upper arm inflammation, and going through tests, and will eventually, hopefully, resume baseball activities. Blah blah blah. This had been out there since Sunday that something had been up, I guess, and then we hadn't really heard a whole lot, so we didn't want to talk about it here. But now that there's an official record of him being on the injury report, we can talk about it with as much certainty as the Tigers allow us with that injury report. The way that the language is, it makes me more concerned than probably what it will end up being. Is that fair to say? Like some of the catch language. That's all. That's all.
I don't know. These things are always concerning, and the read from both the injury report and AJ Hinch's words seem to be like it's probably not a big deal, but I've heard that before. And I've been told there's no structural damage with Parker Meadows, but I've even been told that before, and there can end up being structural damage. Usually, if a guy's not right back on the field, I tend to worry. He's being reevaluated. Also, we have not heard from Parker Meadows. I have not seen him in a couple days. That seems a little sketchy. So this is one of those things that you hope that it's all good and he completes a test and he's back on the field Thursday or Friday. But it already kind of went from, oh, no big deal, to like, well, he's going to have to miss a couple days, to like, well, he's going to be reevaluated. And just say there's a saying in baseball writing, like always overwrite injuries. You really hope Parker Meadows is going to be fine. He's an important player to this team. We were talking about it off air. Like, if he goes down, what does that mean for the roster? And your head immediately starts spinning with a million scenarios. I don't know that we should go there quite yet, because maybe it won't happen. But in a way, just even this scare, I think, highlights his importance to the roster, because even though Skubal and Greene are higher profile, like, does anyone make the whole thing work as much as Parker Meadows? We saw that last year when he didn't play well and they had to send him down, and the team kind of nosedived right then. And then he came back and he was great, and they went on a crazy run. I don't know.
Well, there's a couple things. Number one, if you were to take the top 10 plays from the run, there's a lot of them that involve Parker. Number one. Number two, the record speaks for itself. I don't have it in front of me, but the record speaks for itself in terms of when he's in the lineup, when he's not in the lineup. And we talked a lot last year about how they were adamant they did not want to send him down for these very reasons. Like, they were as firm about that, and they eventually just had to. You know what I mean? And it was obviously the right decision. I don't necessarily want to go into all the deep dives and trickle downs of if he misses some time. I'll just say this, though. Last night I was at a local watering hole by myself, just kind of collecting my thoughts. And, those internet memes where it's like, I wonder what he's thinking about right now from like the wife or the girlfriend. And it's like, that's what I was thinking about. So if anybody was curious, I was like, what happens with this guy? Do you do here? But if you're facing this situation, I was also like Charlie Day and Always Sunny. I was going all deep into the roster, texting Cody some crazy thoughts. And not necessarily for air yet, because we don't have a reason for him. But let's just say it affects a lot of things. All right. We can wrap up here a little bit, Cody. I think we got to give a special shout out because we've done the Camp Darling thing, but we got the hottest guy in camp, the scorching bat of Ben Malgeri. I don't know if I'm saying that correct. I'll throw a little Italian in there, a little northeast accent. Ben Malgeri. Holy Cross, Northeastern. Those are schools that I know people have gone to. Not necessarily known for their baseball. Can't play baseball a lot that area of the country all year round like you can down here in the South. But the guy had a memorable week. He's had a memorable week. He had a home run today. I think he's like 6 for 8 or something in spring training games. He's an extra bat that they call up or whatever. So he's obviously not in the 40 man or anything like that. But fun fun week for this guy, and shout out. We'll see what happens next. But I wanted to be a prisoner of the moment and just say, hey, man, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome what he's
these
doing.
are one of the great things about spring training. This guy, not a very heralded prospect, gets called up to big league camp and 3 hits his first game, 3 RBI, and a laser home run his second game. That's cool. Ben Malgeri's 25 years old. He had a solid year last year in Double-A Erie. He hit 252 with 12 homers. So there's a little bit of power in the tank. In theory, not a guy who's probably going to advance much, but we probably would have said that about Kerry Carpenter 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So you never really know. I hope Ben Malgeri enjoys this. I hope his family enjoys this. We'll see if he ends up getting more opportunities, to do this in like the actual major leagues one day. But AJ Hinch even said, hey, like we're going to keep bringing him over, you earn more opportunities when you do stuff like that. So no, it's cool. These are the stories that kind of only emerge in spring training, and sometimes they're really fun.
Yeah, I went down a little bit of a dive on him. I looked at some college tape and photographs and all that stuff. He plays with a lot of emotion. He's got that Northeast Italian emotion when he plays. Even look at his Erie page. He's like screaming as he hits the ball on his Erie page. So respect that. And he's kind of a little bit of a tank. 6'1", 215. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad at all. And speaking of
another guy who played that I didn't know existed, Patrick Lee, was signed out of Indie Ball last year. He got a couple innings in the game, made a couple plays in center field. So, yeah, some faces tend to emerge this time of year. And if you're one of these players, you're trying to make a name for yourself. Right now, Ben Malgeri, hey, you got on Tiger territory. I mean, what more do you want?
Come on anytime, Ben.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's probably got a fun story. He went to North New Mexico JUCO, I think, in between those 2 stops. He's the guy loves game. He loves ball. All right. So, and we love ball too. So we'd love to have Ben on if he wants to come on. Speaking of Kerry Carpenter, real quick, also saw him. He was 3 for 3. So obviously I don't have a lot of analysis, but I did want to mention Kerry Carpenter, a guy that I just feel like hasn't really gotten a whole lot of spring training buzz, if you would. The bat's working through 1 spring training game. I can say the bat's working. So wanted to mention Kerry Carpenter, 3 for 3. Obviously, that's an encouraging sign when your 2 best pure hitters on the team come up and get 5 hits combined in 1 game against a prominent team that figures to be in the national spotlight the majority of the season. Anything else, Cody, before we jet out of here?
Nothing major, other observations from the game no one could see. Jace Young had a nice diving stop that I actually didn't fully see because of how the press box is there. My line of vision did not extend all the way down the third baseline. But, I know he didn't grade out well in his short sample in the majors, but he does have a knack for just making plays. I don't think his range is that great. I don't think his arm is that great, but he's never just botched the fundamentals like you might think, given how bad the reviews of his defense tend to be. And then Justin Henry Malloy, man, had a great pick at first. There was another play where I think he ventured too far to his right, and one of those things AJ Hinch literally was like, yeah, I'm glad that happened. Now he knows. So we saw an instance of him looking good and comfortable at first. We also saw an instance of the growing pains that can come with first. I continue to be kind of impressed by Jay Hin. Here's a fun nugget. I asked Jay, because Colt Keith talked about having to order a first baseman. Jay Hin already had one, man, because he was like, what if they put me over there? So not only were we calling for him to play first base, Jay Hin himself was ahead of the train, knowing he should probably eventually play first base.
How about that? Hey, that's a feather in our cap. We don't get to toot our horns too much, but that's a feather in our cap because we were thinking the same, us and Jay Hen. So.
Everyone was except the Tigers.
All right, well, you can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cody Stavenhagen. I'm at Kieran _Steckley, pod page, at Tiger Territory _ Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram. You know the deal. Follow and subscribe. We appreciate all of you. For Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.